On this episode of Money Matters with Jim Doyle, creating a successful exit plan, featuring guest Dane Chauvel of Organic Ocean with Alyssa Lockhart and Ross Bonetti. Plan more, worry less. This is Money Matters with Jim Doyle.
Is your exit strategy for your business one that will see you leaving it feet first, meaning you'll never retire, life will retire you? A successful exit plan considers multiple possibilities and allows you to plan the outcome you'd most desire. Not every business owner leaves their business on their own terms. Health changes, divorce, business changes, just to name a few. Will you sell and have an earn-out? Will you sell to interested third parties? Will you sell to a competitor? Or would you like to sell your business to your kids? Welcome. Succession planning is not a four-letter word. Today's show will look at one family's exit strategy considerations. Fishing isn't an industry you often associate with advanced education. But for one business family, it's in their blood.
I was born into the fishing industry. My father was a fisherman. He became a fisherman when I was a young lad, and so I grew up in the business and followed in his footsteps. It was getting tough, and this was back in the early 1980s, and the feeling in my family was that there's an easier way to make a living. My father said, "The writing's on the wall, son. It's time for you to consider doing something else with your life." And so I got an economics degree, and then I got a business degree, and then I went to work in technology. That was a good time to be in that space, and I had a very successful ride for about 25 years. At the end of that period, though, I was looking to do something with my life, something that I thought had more social meaning. And I had always maintained an interest in the family business. I used to take my boys out fishing in the summer when they were on their break from school, and I was on vacation from my white-collar job. And so I had an attachment to the industry, and I could see that there was dysfunction and woes that were facing it. And I very courageously thought that I'd take the experience that I'd gained in venture capital and technology and corporate finance and bring that to bear on addressing some of the dysfunction of the fishing industry. The existing supply chain wasn't working, and it wasn't working for us. And the problem with the supply chain is that we would harvest our fish sustainably, we would handle them with great care, we would deliver a perfect, pristine product, and then when we offloaded it, it would get dumped in the same bin as everybody else's fish. And the common denominator is that we would get paid the same low price that was paid for the roughly handled commodity fish. And we said, this is not going to encourage or reward fishermen to do the right thing. So why don't we create our own supply chain? We focused on addressing the food service market, and that was supplying these high-end restaurants with these top chefs with what we thought was the finest seafood in the world. And it proved to be a much larger task and more humbling endeavor than what I had anticipated.
When we come back, we'll have Dane Chauvel with us.
It's also tough to contemplate handing over your business to somebody else.
Welcome back. We're now joined by Dane Chauvel. Now, Dane, I understand that your dad was a commercial fisherman. Could you tell us a bit about your dad?
My dad emigrated to Canada from Australia, and he'd been a lifelong mariner, and so moving into the fishing business once he arrived here was a pretty natural transition for him.
We lost your dad a number of years ago, and I understand that you inherited his boat and his licenses. How did that affect your life?
Well, I had grown up in a fishing family. I'd gone to university, obtained a couple of university degrees, and moved out of the family business. And when my brother and I inherited his vessel and licenses, we had a short conversation, decided that it was a legacy that we wanted to maintain in the family.
So at that particular time, you had every ambition to always be a fisherman?
Well, no, and in fact, you mentioned that fishing and advanced education are two things that you often mention in the same sentence. The reason I had an advanced education is that my father said, don't be a fisherman. He wanted me to pursue something other than fishing. And it was not because fishing wasn't good and appealing. He just thought that it would be a tough industry going forward, and he was right. But there is a romantic aspect to it, and I think it's come into its own again because food production systems have become more important now than ever.
Now, I don't think the industry's gotten any easier, that's for sure. Most business owners know the ins and outs of their business quite well, but Alyssa Lockhart suggests there might be some areas that they need a little bit more help.
Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Why should most business owners get advice when structuring their exit strategies?
Well, most of my business owner clients are experts in their field. They're successful and they know the operations of their business in and out. But by that same token, they are not accountants, they're not lawyers, they're not planners. They may not appreciate all of the tax minimization strategies that could be employed to allow them to exit their business and hold more of their money for their retirement. The fact is, our successful owner-operators are doers. They're not retirers. So they approach their business from the perspective of what comes next, and it's exciting for them. And that's what makes working with them exciting for planners. But when we look at this, we need to take every opportunity to see that every transaction that we work on might be something that will assist the company in structuring itself for an eventual transition. If we structure this way, the long-term impact will be this. But if we choose this other path, we might avail ourselves of a different opportunity. They can really see the benefit of coming to our advisors before they decide one day to simply pull the plug on the doing and start in on the retiring.
Okay, Dane, I've ripped the Band-Aid off and I've introduced the subject of exit planning or succession planning. When this phrase is brought up, okay, what sort of feelings does it stir?
Mixed feelings. You know, I have a business background, so I realize the importance of succession planning, and I think it's one of the first issues of good management, but it's also tough to contemplate handing over your business to somebody else.
What, pass your baby on to somebody else?
Well, yeah. it's particularly in a case like mine where we created this from scratch. So we gave birth to it and watched it grow up, and so we have a real connection to the business.
As a wealth advisor, you know, this is one of the more common areas that I see a little procrastination, okay? Why do you think that generally is?
Two reasons, one of which is that it's a matter of kicking it down the road because you don't want to deal with it, and the second issue is you know, the challenge in finding somebody that you can entrust it to.
That old challenge of where do I start and where do I go with this?
Yeah, and the way I look at management, my role and the role of my successor or successors is that we're stewards of the business. It's not so much a matter of ownership, but it's a matter of taking care of it and managing it to the best of our abilities. Well, it's under our watch, and you want somebody that hopefully will do a better job than you did.
Now, one of the favorite expressions that I've got working with business owner clients is to ask the question, kind of like a fire drill. If you couldn't come in tomorrow, what would happen to your business?
Well, that's a real issue, and it's particularly an issue in my case because, as you can well imagine, I'm still a fisherman, and fishing is amongst the most dangerous of occupations. So there's a real risk that if something were to happen to me, that it would be left in the hands of my wife and my boys, and if they're going to take over the business, they better be adequately trained to do so.
That's a big task. When we come back, we're going to hear more about Dane's story.
The new accountant came on board and has stepped into the role and really taken us to the next level.
Welcome back. Now, your business is no longer a simple fishing operation, okay? And I think at some point you mentioned that you needed additional skills, but that they weren't necessarily available in-house, okay? Could we talk a little bit about your recruitment of Guy Dean?
Certainly, yeah. Our business started out selling fish off the dock to the general public, and it got discovered by the chefs, and culinary buyers became our principal market. And we also expanded from Vancouver to national service and even global supply. We ship fish into the United States and Southeast Asia. And as the business evolved, so did the sophistication of the business. And succession for me was not just a matter of what happens if I get hit by a bus. It was also a matter of bringing in and recruiting the skill set that we needed in order to take the business to the next level. So I looked to people I knew in the industry that I felt could fit in what was still an entrepreneurial context, but would bring the big company experience and knowledge that we would need to scale the business. And a good friend of mine happened to share my passion for corporate social responsibility, except he brought significant seafood industry knowledge to the party, and I reached out to him, and I was delighted when he accepted my offer to come on board.
So finding that operational expertise is such a gem and such a challenge, okay? When Guy came on board, what were some of the first things that he probably had to take on?
I think that what he wanted to do is he wanted to clean house, and we anticipated that, we being myself and my co-investors, because there was things that we had done just because we were self-built that didn't fit where we wanted to take the business. And I think Guy also wanted to have a clean slate to start, and so we went through a mildly tumultuous period where the business went through a form of revolution as we made the transition from founder-built startup to scalable enterprise.
So I understand you had a long-term accountant that was with your firm, and I think that some changes kind of needed to occur there.
Yeah, our accountant left, and somebody that I'd had a long-term business relationship with, and for me it was strange because I really knew nothing else other than working with this accountant. We recruited a new accountant, and that was unknown for me, and it proved to be just a brilliant move for the business. The new accountant came on board and has stepped into the role and really taken us to the next level.
I'll bet if you had a do-over, would you have changed some of that a little bit earlier?
Yeah, yeah. You know what they say, and that is hire slowly, fire quickly.
Absolutely. Letting go can be hard to do. Let's hear what Ross Bonetti has to say.
Family businesses are always hard because usually the patron is a control freak, which I am, and you can't really build a business like this without sort of being a control freak. So they're coming into the business, and I think like I did with my father, you have to work hard. You got to show the other employees that you're working hard to sort of get your piece in the business. And I think my part going forward is going to be more counsel, I'll help with buying. I'll still, make the trips to Italy, but maybe I'll spend more time there instead of coming home right away, like I have for the last 30-odd years.
So can we talk about your boys coming into the business and the reporting hierarchy?
It was a bit of a natural that my family take an interest in the business, and that was one of the reasons that I hung out of the fish boat. Was I thought it would be a good place to spend time with them, and since they were 5 and 6 years old, they came out with me fishing every summer, and it helped fund private school education for them, which was their choice, not mine, and university education. Both boys have stayed within the industry. One of them is actively involved in the business, and the other is a sustainability consultant who lives in Europe and is going back to get his MBA this fall.
Perfect. Now, I also want to still talk about, the reporting hierarchy that you set up within your business, okay? I understand that your son is now involved.
And my son is just one of several very talented and competent members of I think, a broadly skilled management team. But the reporting hierarchy is pretty conventional, and that is that our middle managers report to Guy Dean, the president and general manager, and Guy, I think, officially or formally reports to me, but we have a much more collegial relationship where we operate in more of a partnering, cooperative, consultative capacity, and then we have a board of directors that we formally report to, but I think we're doing a good enough job that the board of directors give us a pretty free rein on how we manage the business.
Now, I want to again talk about Paul, okay? Paul had a choice, okay? He can report to Dad, or he can report to Guy, okay? But I understand you had a deliberate plan there.
Oh, very deliberately. He reports to Guy, and I think that Guy and I, and Paul for that matter, have a clear understanding that because he's family, and to avoid any perception of nepotism, that more is demanded of him, and he's expected to operate at a higher standard than his colleagues and his peers.
Perfect. So Guy's a lot more responsible for, this succession strategy and building the skill set and so forth. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, Guy is really responsible for operational matters, which includes that. My role has become increasingly strategic planning and industry and governmental relations, which is something that I'm happy to do. It's been a huge relief handing over the reins of the day-to-day and the irksome details to somebody that, quite frankly, is better equipped to manage that than I am.
I think I hear a plan coming together. When we come back, we'll talk about the early stages of a long-term exit strategy.
Well, it certainly has given us a very bright and promising and exciting future, and that's not only great for me, but it's great for my successors.
Welcome back. Dane, your succession plan doesn't come with a guarantee that Paul will take over. I understand that it's about creating the best opportunity for him to possibly do so if he wants to. Could we talk about that?
Yeah, and I'm not even sure it's fair to say that we're creating the opportunity for him. I mean, he has to earn it and he has to want it. And if neither of those come to pass, then he probably isn't going to take the reins. To his credit, though, he stepped into the business of his own volition. I didn't hold a gun to his head, and he's done I think by all reports, an impressive job of performing.
Well, you're thriving, so the last couple of years, it sounds like you've done a lot of great things.
Well, it certainly has given us a very bright and promising and exciting future, and that's not only great for me, but it's great for my successors because they're taking over something that has an opportunity to be significant.
Well, again, thanks for sharing. Okay, I love what you've added to today's show. Just awesome.
It was a pleasure, Jim. Thank you.
While most business owners would like to exit their business on their terms, planning can take several years to structure. Heirs may need to develop additional skills. A great exit plan should include your tax, legal, investment, and financial planning professionals. What adds complexity to the process is ensuring your retirement needs are met, that the business won't face liquidity issues, and that your children have the financial ability to accomplish what they want in life. Consider integrating your estate planning, especially when there are active and inactive children in the business. When it comes to exit planning, one-and-done conversations, they won't cut it. Consider your exit plan as a living document that will need to be regularly reviewed. Over the years, I've met many business owners who see exit planning as an overwhelming task, but I want to offer hope. Take it on in bite-sized pieces. Make sure to talk to the appropriate stakeholders and ensure your wishes and wants are addressed. Now, I wish we had more time. I want to thank Dane Chevelle, Alyssa Lockhart, and Ross Bonetti for sharing their thoughts on money matters. Because financial aspects touch so many elements of our lives, it pays to get great advice. Plan more, worry less.